everybody? Welcome to Capital of Combat. The name says it all. I'm Hakeem Branch.
Rob Jarrell.
And today we're going to discuss a few of the fights on this weekend's loaded fight weekend. We got fights on all weekend over a variety of sports. We got UFC on Saturday, MMA. You got some MMA on Friday night. You got boxing on Friday and Saturday night. On Friday, we got the rematch between Sergio Mora and Danny Jacobs for the WBA middleweight title. Mm-hmm. And then on the undercard,
that's the regular title, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, yes, the regular.
There are three champions at WBA middleweight right now.
That always upsets me, so we're not going to talk about that. Mm-hmm. The undercard is Richard Comey and Robert Easter for one of the belts at 135. I can't think of which one it is at the moment. But that is going to be a very good fight as well. Main event, maybe not so much, but...
That's for the vacant IBF lightweight title.
I was thinking that too, but... Oh well. I got a 1 in 4 chance, right?
That's right. Unless you're WBA, then it's 1 in 6.
Yeah. Then on Saturday, we have in the afternoon Kell Brook versus Gennady Golovkin for a multitude of Golovkin's belts. Mm-hmm. And then in the evening, we have a doubleheader with the replay of Golovkin-Brook. You have Yoshihiro Kamagai versus Jesus Soto-Karass, part 2, mm-hmm. which was a very good fight. And then we have... What's my man's first name? It just
Roman?
No, I know Roman Gonzalez-Cuadras.
Oh, Carlos.
Carlos. There we go. I was like, I was looking up and I watched like 8 of his fights and I was like, yeah, I like this guy. And then I forget his name. Shame on me. So, for time purposes, we are going to discuss Brook Golovkin and Gonzalez-Cuadras. Because those are two very, very good, intriguing fights that have a lot of questions and a lot of technical skill that you're going to see. So we're going to talk about those ones. And we're going to start with the evening fight. We're going to start with Carlos Cuadras and Roman Gonzalez. This fight is good because we have Gonzalez, who is one of the best pound-for-pound fighters right now, moving up from 112 to 115 to challenge Cuadras. And Cuadras is a very, very good fighter. He's undefeated. He's beaten a few good guys himself.
His best fight was Luis Concepcion.
Yes, who is a good fighter in his own right. Beat him by decision. And this is going to be a good contrast fight when you see Soto-Karass and Kamagai on the undercard. Because with those two guys, you're going to get guys who are heavy volume, heavy-handed, not too great on the subtleties of the sweet science.
And defense is non-existent.
Right. I was trying to be nice there.
I wasn't.
There we go. But when you get Cuadras and Gonzalez in the ring, you're going to see feints. You're going to see great jabs. You're going to see traps. You're going to see angles. You're going to see combinations. You're going to see it all. You're going to see slipping, ducking, blocking, parrying, cutting the ring off, keeping the ring from being cut off. You're going to see all of the small things that make the sweet science great in these two guys. And you're going to see a high volume of leather being thrown. So this one may end up being a Fight of the Year contender. We might have 2 on the same card, which is a fight fan's dream. Because you're going to see Kamagai and Soto-Karass, who have already put in a Fight of the Year contender. Mm-hmm. They're going to do it again. But then you're going to see a higher level boxing / brawl exhibition going on between these two guys. What you got, Rob?
All right. So, what do we know about Roman Chocolatito Gonzalez? We know he hits hard. He gets knockouts. But he has those, like you said, those subtleties. He doesn't really have a lot of head movement, but what he can do is parry and make a lot of blows glance off his guard. He likes to come with a high guard. Sometimes fighters will get through with the jab or even a right hand. He has a great beard on him, but he has the uncanny ability to not only block or parry, but knows what punch to throw after blocking or parrying those punches. And not only one at a time, not even two at a time. He can let loose with 4 or 5 punch combinations, and all of them are varied punches.
Yes.
And not only that, but they're not all upstairs, not all downstairs. And with his particular type of balance, you're going to see some bludgeoning sharpshooting all day. He doesn't have a whole lot of movement, except if he's coming forward. He rarely moves back unless you can push him back. But with Carlos-Cuadras,
is that how you pronounce it?
It's Cuadras.
Cuadras.
It's a little bit different because this guy is a mover and he likes to work heavily off his jab. He could throw it 3 to 4 times in succession just to set up his offense. And he's going to be the one that's fighting from the outside. Now we know that Chocolatito can bring the pressure, and Cuadras is going to really have to stay on his toes throughout the whole fight. The only time I've ever seen him really get caught, just like a lot of people, is when he stops moving. But when he sets, he can throw some great combination punches. And again, goes upstairs and downstairs, setting up off that jab.
Yeah, I've seen him throw uppercuts in combination as well. That's something you rarely see from guys nowadays. And also, to add on to your point about Chocolatito and the head movement, his head movement doesn't consist of a consistent moving while he's setting up his punches or playing defense, but he slips very well. So he still moves his head. He only moves it when he needs to, which is when someone punches at him. And that takes some tremendous eyes, outstanding reflexes, and just a top-notch knowledge of the game to know when that guy's going to throw, to like just feel when he's going to throw and be able to move out of the way. Because we're talking split seconds of decision making here between him slipping and returning fire. So that is a very, very good attribute that Gonzalez has. Now with Cuadras, see, he took Spanish. Good for him. He doesn't move his head a lot as well, but he uses his feet well to get out of the way of punches, which will be good against someone like Gonzalez because he can try to turn him and create offense off of those turns and angles once he moves out of the way. So he can't move in large circles. He has to stay tight and just move just enough to where Gonzalez will miss and he can make him pay for those misses. Otherwise, he will get walked down.
Yeah, and I'm watching the fight with Williams Arroyo, that he can tend to reach at the end of those combinations, especially if his opponent is backing up. So if Cuadras can just step to the left or the right, maybe turn, fire back, and get out of return fire, he's fine. Also, I've seen Chocolatito be pushed back a little bit when he's also fighting someone who's just as aggressive or can be just as aggressive, like with Arroyo or a Brian Valoria. But we know Brian Valoria has a great punch on him as well.
Yes.
Now, that's what we have to see with Cuadras because he hasn't had the greatest level of competition. I think the majority of his fights were in Argentina or against other Argentinians, except the last few fights with Juan Francisco. No, I'm thinking of Chocolatito with Luis Concepcion and my man from a cat from Japan.
Ito.
Yeah. So Cuadras really does have to show some aggressiveness with this offense, but he's kind of got to still stay on his toes, stay out of the fire of Chocolatito.
Yeah. So the main question is if he can keep that up. We don't know how well he will do in the late rounds because I don't think he's had that kind of pressure put on him in a fight. I'm talking about Cuadras. So that's the real question. I think it'll be very competitive early. The question marks are late. How will he fare then? I do think Gonzalez will still pull it off. The 3 pounds in difference, I don't think is going to be significant at all, as far as the move up from flyweight to super flyweight. So let's talk about somebody who's really moving up in weight. Special Kell Brook, moving up 2 weight divisions to fight Gennady Golovkin, our old buddy Triple G. 2 guys who was having a little trouble finding the big name guys in their division. So they got on the phone with each other and said, "You want to fight? Yup. You want to fight? Yup. Well, we gonna fight." So, like we said, Kell Brook is moving up from the welterweight division, skipping the junior middleweight division, and fighting at the full 160-pound division that Gennady Golovkin reigns supreme at.
No catch weight.
Yes. So that means Kell Brook can either come in a little bit lighter than 160, or he can come in at 160. He has a lot of leeway there.
Now, over the training camp period, we've seen the different weights. We've seen Kell Brook outweigh Golovkin by 12 pounds at the 60-day weigh-in.
It was
30? At the 30-day weigh-in, and I think the 2-week weigh-in or 10-day weigh-in, it was like 5 pounds. But if you know anything about Triple G, he never really strays far from 160, especially during training camp. It's like he loses the weight, or he makes sure he's far enough away that he can concentrate on strength training and his game plan and technique. So that is a good thing for Triple G, and we already know that doesn't sap his power.
Right.
Now with Kell Brook, he always said that he's had a hard time making 147, and if you ever seen his weigh-ins, it was probably true. He is a huge welterweight. He is very dense, very muscled, but the good thing is he's very balanced in his body. So the 30-day weigh-in, he was like 176 pounds. Okay, that's a lot, but
yeah, he's like you said, he's a big welterweight, so he might be pushing 190 normally.
Yeah,
just walking around.
But he said that's part of the plan. They want to come in bigger, and they want to make sure they have enough muscle to have that strength and power when going down to 160. Now, the thing is, will he have that power? Will he be fresher? And will that added muscle and strength allow him to take the punishment that Triple G normally dishes out to his opponents?
And also, will he be able to carry that additional muscle for the allotted distance of the fight?
Because the plan is, don't get hit. And how do you not get hit? Movement.
Yes, movement, or hitting the other guy so he doesn't want to hit you. Now, Kell Brook is a very good puncher at 147. Like Rob said, we don't know if that's going to carry up. It looks to me that he has some people on his team that know what they're doing. They're bringing him up. They're bringing him into the weight division correctly. So I think he'll have enough on his punches to earn the respect of Golovkin. Brook has a very, very, very hard jab. He throws it very deliberately. He throws it the way you're supposed to. He punches through the opponent instead of just hitting them. And I think that's going to help him get the respect of Golovkin early. But we don't know if he's going to be able to keep that respect.
Now, it's just not gaining the respect power-wise, but he has to be accurate with his punches.
Which he is.
Because what we see in the fights is that with Golovkin, if he finds that opponent has good enough power, he's a little bit more defensively responsible.
Right.
Against Lemieux and Stevens, he moved just a little bit more, showed a bit more head movement instead of against a fight like Monroe or Wade, where he would get hit, shake it off, and land whatever punch he wanted to land at the time.
Right.
So get that respect early, put him in a more defensive stance, but remain defensively responsible yourself. And I'm not talking about just moving around the ring, which he's going to have to do, because with those added muscles, that's more oxygen that's needed to power and carry him. but also not constantly getting hit in the guard, because again, this is a guy who has a 91% KO rate and is probably the hardest puncher pound for pound out of all the boxing. So even if he hits on the shoulders, on the forearms, on the elbows, it's still going to hurt.
Yeah. And so with Brook, those are where the question marks are. Can he do this? We've seen Golovkin get hit by people who are real middleweights, people who would not make 147 at all. Now, Kell Brook had to build himself up, and he said he's probably not going back down to 147, but he was down there at. The guys that Golovkin have been knocking out couldn't even come close to making that weight. So he's used to knocking out bigger men. And I think that's the general consensus on this fight. It's like, Brook is a very good fighter, but it's only a matter of time until Golovkin lowers the boom. It won't, I don't believe it'll look like the previous welterweight who jumped up 2 divisions to fight a middleweight in Amir Khan and Saul Alvarez, because we got different temperaments, different punchers, all, you know, different variables. But I do believe that eventually Kell Brook will be worn down and stopped. He's going to be very game up to that point. He's going to possibly give some of the guys who have had some hesitation in fighting Golovkin, he might give them a little hope because of his performance. But when at the end of the day you need to get a W, I think he falls short there.
Right. And again, there's plenty of things that Triple G doesn't just do well. He does great. He can punch with his opponent.
Yes.
He has a great jab, as Kell Brook has a great jab. But he also can jab and catch a jab at the same time. Again, punching with your opponent.
Right.
He also can cut off the ring very well.
Offense and defense at the same time.
And he has this thing where he gives a few different looks. I saw this in the Monroe fight, where he kind of, when he stalks his opponent, and of course Kell Brook can't get tired because he's got to carry the added weight, where he kind of gives you a look here, gives you a look here, gives you a look here, and it kind of freezes his opponent in place, where he could throw an overhand right or a hook very explosively. And that's what took Monroe down in the first fight, on the first knockdown, if I'm not mistaken. So kind of watch out for that and see how Kell Brook adjusts to that. Because like we always said, if you don't think you can catch your opponent, if they're running, cut off the ring.
And Golovkin does that very well.
That's right.
But one thing that Kell Brook does very well is time his opponents. He is a master of distance and when he needs to throw his punches. And he throws them at the exact moment he needs to stop their momentum.
You can see that in the Porter fight, where he timed that jab, and it was a very nose-breaking jab, and we know Porter likes to lunge in, he likes to leap in, and as soon as he did, right in the middle of his face, right in the nose.
Yeah, so he's gonna have to use that against Golovkin and follow up with other punches, because he doesn't really throw a lot of combinations. He's gonna have to throw at least 2 to 3 to get Golovkin's respect and then get out of there.
Right. He can't get caught in too long like Lemieux or Stevens, because they were just a little bit in there too long, because they just maybe didn't have the wheels, or they thought that he wasn't going to return fire and just didn't see the punch coming.
That happened to Daniel Gill as well.
Exactly.
So, can Kell Brook do it? Yes, he could. If he does, he deserves all of the adulations that should be coming his way. He took a big risk. He fought the best person in the division. He beat the best person in the division.
Now, in looking at this from a business standpoint, for Kell Brook, with all of that being said, this is a win-win.
Yes.
If he loses, hey, he went up and fought the best when people in that division decided they didn't want to.
Right.
Now, Triple G, it's, I would say, a lose-lose win. And he fought a welterweight he was supposed to be.
Right.
If he loses, he's a hype job. I don't think he's a hype job.
Which is false.
Yes.
I was going to bring that up. If he does lose, this does not mean that he, like Rob said, is a hype job. A lot of people are going to say that.
We're not going to say that.
Right. The skills are there. It just meant that Kell Brook had better skills on that night.
Or a better game plan.
And we know that Kell Brook is a good fighter. So he deserves props. By you saying that Gennady Golovkin is a hype job, you're taking away from Kell Brook's accomplishment.
Exactly.
Because if Gennady Golovkin is a hype job, then Kell Brook is supposed to beat him. Because Kell Brook is an established good fighter. Gennady Golovkin should be an established good fighter. He is. He is a good fighter. We see the skills.
No, he's a great fighter. I'm going to say great fighter. Because what I've seen up until now, I don't see from any other middleweight or a lot of other fighters in any other divisions, the stuff that he does and does well.
Right. So don't try to take away from Kell Brook's accomplishment if he does win. That just means he was the better man on that night, and he did what he was not supposed to do. So that's it for that.
Now, the win part for Golovkin is he has more exposure because he's fighting, I would say, the biggest or most popular fighter in Great Britain right now. Froch is gone, Tyson Fury, blah. Between DeGale and Brook, I'm going to say. And maybe Frampton with his last win versus Leo Santa Cruz. He's got that real exposure to the UK audience and the UK fans. And if you know the UK fans, they are friggin' awesome.
Yes, they are very raucous. They are very supportive. And that place is going to be electric regardless of who wins.
And they love their boxing.
Yes. So he will get some great exposure to maybe somebody who didn't know who he was, because there are still guys out there who don't know who he is. And
granted, if he wins, that might bring more UK audience or more need or want for them to fight. Maybe a James DeGale or George Groves. You never know.
Yeah. So that stuff we'll have to talk about next week, because both guys still have to go in there and do what it is they're supposed to do, which is win. So we'll have to find out who comes out on top, and we'll go from there. So if you guys have anything you want to add, any of your thoughts on like the technical skill of either guy, how you feel the fight's going to play out, drop us a line below. Don't forget to like this video. Go ahead and click it right now. Thank you. Subscribe. Thanks again. And hit us up on our social network platforms. Those are in the links below, right under the subscribe button you just hit. Thanks again. And if you have any questions, you can hit us up on those platforms. We'll get you in the combat mailbag. We got some real special technical toolboxes coming soon. We're going to physically, the two of us, break down how each Sergey Kovalev and Andre Ward are going to win that fight. So that's a very good reason to subscribe right there. And make sure you catch my MMA preview, which will be coming by Friday if you are into MMA. That's Stipe Miocic versus Alistair Overeem. So that's it for this video, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.
This is round one, and you've already lost. They don't seem to see that everything we've done is coming and gone. My fists are on fire. I perform till I perspire. My demons are in a rage. Keep thinking that it's a game. I kick crime, hurricane. I told them I don't play. I'm liquid.
Black Street Fighter.